Hello everyone, the Endless update for Roboquest is finally here, and if you're wondering what it's about, you came to the right spot. There's going to be this little portal over here in base camp, and once you go through it, everything changes. Everything you know or thought you knew about Roboquest is going to be different here. The rovers shoot you. The bosses multiply. And you get to have 5 skills. And I know all of this sounds really simple and small on pen and paper, but I promise these are game changing. And you're gonna have to learn how to play around these changes in ways that you haven't been conditioned to in normal runs. We can talk more about how to think later on, but let's talk about the maps, which in my opinion are some of the highlights. If you haven't noticed already, you are currently seeing canyons at nighttime, not something you see in normal runs. On top of that, the soundtrack plays randomly each time you change stages, meaning that you can hear the field soundtrack in canyons, the moon soundtrack in energy labs, or even the rift and way station soundtracks for those of you, I am included in this by the way, that haven't been to those areas in a long time. But between the multitude of skybox and map combinations, the banger soundtrack that gives you those adrenaline boosting highs, and the extreme mob density, you will be constantly engaged by not only the classic Roboquest combat, but the change of scenery and music as well. Next up, let's talk about modifiers. You will be getting stronger than you will in a normal run, yes, but these modifiers are no joke. Ryseup wants this to be a challenge, and you will struggle if you're not ready. Whenever you start laughing maniacally at your build as it starts to overflow with items and an additional skill, Ryseup laughs right back with a modifier that will end your run if you brush it off as something inconsequential. There are 2 types of modifiers that get added to your runs. Both can hurt you in different ways. Glitches are modifiers that happen after you complete a standard stage, and these consist of things that affect your stats in negative ways. As you can see on screen, one of them is Injury Bill, and that one can end a run really quick, making it so that you have to pay power cells in order to heal. Another one that I absolutely hate and seem to be cursed with is the one that lowers the amount of choices you get out of your chest to 2 instead of 4. Next up is Singularities. You get these for completing a boss stage, and these, instead of changing stats, will change the behavior run, such as Angry Rovers, making it so that the little heal bots that give you a bunch of XP that ride on the rails now attack you, and send more than one while they do it. But don't worry, it's not just a game mode designed around punishing the player the farther they go. You do indeed get stronger as well. Not only do you get 5 skills, but you also level up faster than in normal. Take note of my time in this current run. I already have all 5 of my skills online at the 25-minute mark, which is around as long as a normal run takes. It's a much better trade-off than just artificially increasing the difficulty through health scaling. The devs didn't want everything to become a bullet sponge, so they only made it more difficult for you to stay alive, not to actually kill your target. Now you can stay ahead of the enemies, especially if you have a solid build with weapons to boot, but keep in mind, once you hit level 25, you are no longer going to have an option between skills and passives. Instead, you will have an option between 3 things for the rest of your run: a 25% heal, 4 power cells, or a temporary 20% boost to your damage for 90 seconds. Keep in mind, you do not need to use these the second you level up. It works just like any other level up reward where you can postpone the collection of these rewards until a desired time. So let's say you end up taking a big chunk of damage, you can go ahead and pull up your level up screen and use that heal on the spot to recover. Really great for getting out of a pinch, especially if you have a small hiccup in later runs. Same with the power increase for boss fights. Let's say you get to a boss fight and you want to get that extra 20% damage going, you can indeed do that. Or, maybe they're selling a fantastic rarity item at the shop and you want to use those power cells. Use them at your convenience, not ASAP. You know what I mean? This is only really going to be important for people that go and do endurance runs in Endless, which isn't really my cup of tea. But if you are one of those people, think about employing those strategies, as from what I've heard talking to other people, this does actually help the run tremendously. Now, unfortunately, at the time of recording, I am unaware of any way to make your weapons fantastic rarity aside from getting crystal powders from Lottery Luke, something that I'm not always a big fan of. I don't really care for Lottery Luke as a wrench sink, but that's neither here nor there. That is just my personal opinion, and those who watch my stream and videos understand why I don't like Lottery Luke. Nothing against him. If you want to use him, go ahead. It's just a personal grievance of mine that I don't truly care for him that much as a wrench sink. So I probably won't be leveling my weapons to fantastic rarity all that much. Besides, most of the time it's better to keep a purple or blue weapon for the sake of upgrading purposes, because your economy will take a hit eventually as you keep going, and keeping your weapons a lower rarity helps you stay afloat in those later rounds. That's about as far as it goes on the surface level. For experienced players, you may notice some builds work differently here than in normal runs. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know all the ins and outs of build crafting, because there are people in the community that are much more informed on these types of things and far outclass me in terms of skill and know-how surrounding Roboquest. But what I can say for sure is that if you are conditioned for normal runs like I am, you will have a steep learning curve when you actually have to be thinking on your feet during boss fights and encounters, instead of just tearing through everything like an animal. I, for one, was happy about this, as the boss fights were incredibly fresh and engaging. You actually need to pay attention to your surroundings and keep modifiers in mind. As far as my comments about builds go, I bet you didn't have simple geometry on your bingo card as a viable, if not potential meta pick for boss killing. You heard me right, boss killing. Again, don't quote me on that, as I'm sure someone more knowledgeable than me is going to crack the meta on every character within hours of this video going live, but I'm sure this is just one of many use cases where a perk that might not have a use case that you're thinking of from normal runs is actually very useful in Endless. The possibilities are there, and I'm sure people are going to figure that out, obviously, very quickly after launch, but this is just one example of something that allows you to break outside of the mold of how you think about metas. That's all you really need to know going into this. Have fun, try things out, that's the nature of the game after all. I'm sure you'll have a blast. I truly don't have many cons for this update aside from, of course, the acquisition of Crystal Powder, and the fact that sometimes you can get really screwed over depending on how early you get certain modifiers. But bad games happen, so it's not too big of a deal. It truly is phenomenal what Ryseup has accomplished here. It's a phenomenal update, and you can really tell the passion they put into it. It would have been all too easy to just reuse assets, make some lazy modifiers, increase enemy health scaling, and call it a day. Ryseup did the opposite. They made unique boss encounters that are genuinely challenging while also being fun. They do not feel cheap. The modifiers are creative, and I can say the same thing about them. They do not feel cheap. And you can really feel that this is a high quality addition to the game, not just another patch. But yeah, that about wraps it up. Let me know what you guys think of the update so far in the comments below, and make sure to like the video if you made it this far. I hope you all enjoy Endless. I'm Haderaxe, signing out. Peace.